A man sits at his workbench, tool in hand, and you ask him a simple question: did you finish the order? Before he answers, something happens that has nothing to do with his voice. His shoulder rises a fraction. His breath catches high in his chest. His hand, which was moving steadily a moment ago, goes still. Then he says yes, smooth as anything. If you were only listening, you'd believe him. But the lie didn't start in his mouth. It started half a second earlier, in his body, before he'd even chosen his words. This video is about that half second, the part of deception nobody trains themselves to catch. Watch a craftsman's hands go completely still the instant you ask him something he doesn't want to answer. A woodworker is planing a tabletop in his shop when his business partner walks in and asks, casually, "Did you bill that client twice?" The plane is mid-stroke. And it stops. Not slows, stops, blade flat against the wood, no follow-through. His exhale stops with it. And if you were close enough, you'd see his eyes stop moving too, fixed on the grain of the wood for a beat that lasts less than a second. Then he breathes out, smooth as anything, and says it must have been a mistake on the invoice. Here's what most people miss: a pause before answering is normal. Thinking takes time. Real hesitation looks like a person still partly engaged with the world, a hand still moving, a breath still cycling, eyes still tracking. What happened in that shop wasn't hesitation. It was a full system shutdown. Hands, breath, and eyes all stopped in the same instant, before he had chosen a single word. That's not a mind searching for language. That's a body bracing for impact, because some older, faster part of it knows what's about to leave the mouth isn't true. So stop listening for the stumble in someone's sentence. Watch what stops moving right before the sentence starts. A pause is thought. A freeze is preparation. And once you catch it, you'll start noticing something even stranger: the breath doesn't just stop. It changes shape before it stops. Which means the lie starts even earlier than you think. His answer sounds calm. His breathing already gave him away 3 seconds earlier. The apprentice is standing in the workshop doorway, keys still in his pocket, when his boss asks the plain question, "Did you lock up last night?" Watch his chest, not his mouth. One sharp breath rises high, into the shoulders, before a single word leaves him. Then, smooth as anything, "Yeah, it was locked." It's always locked. The voice doesn't shake. The breath already did the shaking for him. Here's what's happening underneath that. A truthful answer doesn't need advanced preparation, the body stays loose because there's nothing to manage. A lie is different. The nervous system knows the voice is about to carry weight it wasn't built for, so it grabs air first, the way you'd steady a ladder before climbing it. That breath is either held at the top, a quick inhale that stalls, or it's shallow and stuck high in the chest instead of settling low in the stomach. It's the body preloading oxygen for a performance it isn't fully confident in. So stop listening for the crack in someone's voice. By the time you hear that, you're already too late, the real signal fired in the seconds before, in a breath most people never learn to watch. Train your eyes there instead: chest, shoulders, the half second before speech even starts. Because once his lungs have already lied, his hands are next. He didn't touch his face. He did something almost nobody notices instead. The carpenter had his hands flat on the workbench for 10 minutes, sanding dust on his knuckles, gesturing with them while he talked through the order, the finish, the delivery schedule. Open hands, resting on wood, doing nothing to hide anything. Then the customer asked the only question that mattered: who scratched the finish on her hutch? And before he said one word about the delivery crew, his hand slid off the bench and into his lap. That's the tell. Not fingers to the nose, not a hand covering the mouth, that's television, not truth. What actually happens is retreat. Hands come off the table, drop below its edge, tuck into pockets, fold into a lap. The body is pulling its instruments out of view because some old, wordless part of it knows those hands are about to help sell something false, and it doesn't want them on display doing it. Watch the space a person's gestures normally occupy, the size of it, the openness of it, and then watch that space shrink right before the sentence that matters. Big, loose gestures during small talk. Hands vanishing during the answer. That contraction is the signal, not the touching. Once you see the hands retreat, you'll notice something else. The answer that follows didn't arrive at normal speed. There's a silence that looks exactly like someone choosing their words. It isn't. The blacksmith's apprentice gets asked on a Tuesday whether he finished tempering the blade. There's a pause, maybe 4/10 of a second, then, yeah, I let it cool overnight and checked the color this morning. 2 days later, same question, different context, someone else asking. Same pause. Same sentence. Almost word for word, let it cool overnight, checked the color this morning. Ask him something he actually did he sweep the forge, did he restock the coal, and the answer is instant, and it's never phrased the same way twice. Yeah, did it before lunch. Then later, swept it, yeah, this morning sometime. That difference is the tell. Real memory is retrieval, you reach back, grab the event, and it comes out rough, because you're not reading a script, you're describing a moment. A constructed answer isn't retrieved. It's built, on the spot the first time, and after that, replayed. Building takes a fixed amount of processing, that's your half second. And replaying uses the same neural path every time, which is why the wording barely shifts. So you're not just listening for a pause. You're listening for a pause that repeats itself, attached to a sentence that repeats itself. Truth doesn't need memorizing. Lies do. And once you know that, you have to ask something more unsettling, whether the person in front of you even feels the difference between the two. He believed his own excuse by the time he said it out loud. His body didn't get the memo in time. The foreman had spent the whole morning telling himself it was just business. The supplier was overcharging everyone in the district anyway. Shorting the order by half a pallet wasn't stealing, it was correcting an imbalance. By the time his partner walked into the yard and asked, "Did the full shipment come in?" he wasn't lying to her, not in his own head. He'd already reclassified the lie as a fact. And still, his shoulders climbed half an inch toward his ears. His breath caught for a fraction of a second before he answered. "Yeah, it's all there," he said, flat and easy, no hesitation in his voice at all. Here's the part that should bother you. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't guilty. He'd made peace with what he was doing before he opened his mouth. But his body still braced, because the tell was never about conscience. It's about construction. The moment you build a sentence instead of retrieving one, something in the body flinches to protect the delivery, whether or not the mind approves of the message. Which means you can stop hunting for guilt on someone's face. Guilt is optional. This isn't. Watch for the flinch that happens to the honest liar, the one sleeping fine tonight, because if the body commits before the mind finishes justifying, then somewhere in that half-second window, you're watching something even that person doesn't know is happening. You've been in that room 100 times and missed it every single time. Here's why. The visitor drives home from the workshop replaying the morning in his head. The woodworker, hands dusted with sawdust, telling him the order would ship Thursday. And somewhere on the highway it surfaces, not the words, but the half-second before them. The hand that had been sanding a table edge just stopped. The breath that had been steady caught high in the chest. Then Thursday, said calmly, said convincingly. He saw it. He just saw it 4 hours too late. That's the whole problem with this window. It's not invisible, it's too fast for the kind of attention you're used to paying. You're built to listen to answers, to weigh content, to judge tone after the fact. Nobody trains you to watch the gap before the sentence starts, so your eyes are always half a beat behind, arriving just as the mouth opens and the show is already running. The fix isn't sharper eyes. It's a different target. Stop watching people answer. Watch them right before they answer, the stillness, the breath, the hand pulling back, the instant after your question lands and before their voice fills it. Do that enough times and the half-second stops hiding. It just becomes the part of the conversation you were always supposed to be watching. The craftsman finishes his sentence, sets down his tool, and goes back to work as if nothing happened. To him, nothing did. But you saw it now, the shoulder, the breath, the hand that pulled back before the words arrived. None of that happened because he's a bad liar. It happened because that's what a body does, every body, in the half-second before it commits to something untrue. You were trained your whole life to listen to answers. The real information was never in the answer. It was in the half-second of silence right before it, and now you know exactly where to look.